In the Duchy of Winfriend lived the maid Sandy Willie. Her friends, also maids, said that she had an innate talent for making anything shine. In addition to work, Sandy had another hobby: the young master of the mansion. Every day she admired his portrait on the wall in the living room. For her, this hobby was quite appropriate, because other maids who liked opera singers had to spend money to attend their concerts, while the owner living in this mansion could be admired at any time. It was a pleasant hobby that did not require extra time or expense. "You're on your own again. You're interested in a tree that you can't climb," her maid friend told her when she once again admired the owner's portrait. But the girl admired his beauty and sophistication. "You know very well that the gentleman behind this beautiful shell is rude and changes girls like gloves. And you still admire him?" asked the maid Megan. "He's not a bad person," Sandy defended him. Megan replied that then there are no bad people in the world at all. Megan said that even so, she still respects his privacy. But she added that he definitely suffers from mysophobia, and carefully wiped off the dust. Sandy replied that it was not mysophobia, but that the young gentleman was very nice and did not like dirt. She knew for sure, because her mother had this disease. Sandy's mom died of a heart attack after mopping floors all day, trying to get rid of dust from a quarry. The girl hoped that there was no dirt in heaven, and she was resting. Maid Megan asked her friend why the master was nowhere to be seen. Sandy replied that he had not returned yet. "Seriously? Who is it this time? Ballerina? Actress? There's one thing I can't understand. His fiancée is a famous beauty, but this kind of behavior—" Megan didn't have time to finish when the gentleman's father entered the room. "Killian, where is this stupid boy?" asked the old gentleman. Maid Megan told the master that he had gone out last night and had not returned yet. "Last month I made it clear what would happen if Killian was late for his meeting with the Clement family again. Find this impudent person now," the master ordered the servant. "Sandy, do you remember where the house of the ballerina with whom the young master is seeing?" asked the guy from the servants who was assigned to find the gentleman. The girl replied that she remembered. Then Helly said that she should go with him. "If we keep Lady Clement waiting, we'll say goodbye to our job," the guy added. "Do the senators know what kind of person you are?" asked the girl tied to the bed. Killian replied that they weren't tied to his bed yet. Suddenly there was a knock on the door and the gentleman allowed them to enter, which greatly surprised the tied-up girl. Sandy and Hallie were embarrassed by what they saw, but Helly apologized to the gentleman and asked Sandy to pack his things. The girl untied the ballerina from the bed and collected her things. When they were already sitting in the carriage, Mr. Killian changed his clothes as he went, and Sandy saw his perfect body. She believed that this was the body of a god. "Horse riding and fencing are excellent sports," decided Sandy, who always thought that it was useless to swing a sword and ride a horse. She forced herself to look away from his body, and Mr. Killian told her, "Thank you, Sandy." At that moment, the girl felt like her heart was about to break. People respected the previous Count Clement for his strong character and sound mind. He lost his wife early, but never became the subject of scandalous rumors. "Brother, I don't like this Killian Winfred at all. My weak nerves and heart cannot stand this man. I can't marry this man," said Alexandra Clement. A year has passed since Alexander and Killian became engaged, and with this remark she addresses her brother for the 11th time. This engagement would not have taken place if not for the long-standing friendship between their father and Duke Winfred. The brother said that the time of arrival of Killian and Alexander had run away. The servant gave Killian a bouquet of flowers to give to his fiancée, but Killian said that it was not necessary. Coming out of the carriage, they saw a slender girl. "What a miracle you showed up on time today, Lord Winfried," she said. "What a miracle today you are standing on 2 legs, Miss Clement," the guy replied. Lady Alexandra noticed the roses and asked if he was going to give her this tacky bouquet, and Killian replied that he was going now. "Having heard you, I immediately realized that he suits you very well," said Killian and handed Alexandra a bouquet. The girl replied that it tasted terrible, and she gave the bouquet to the maid Sandy. The servant praised Sandy for her work and gave her a coin, telling her to head back to the estate. The girl liked these flowers. Sandy didn't understand why the gentleman didn't like his bride, and why the lady didn't like the bouquet. Even though it was a receipt, she chose it with all her heart. Since the gentleman touched the flowers, she considered them his gift. Today the gentleman called her by name, smiled at her, and even gave her flowers. "Sandy Willie won't be able to sleep tonight. "It's unusual to see a man here walking on the beds of frivolous women," Alexandra told Killian over a cup of tea. "And yet here I am," he replied. Then Lady Alexandra asked the Lord how he dared to come to her straight from the bed of such a person. Killian replied that he had to leave her tied to the bed. "I hope you are not seriously talking about such dirty things. Perhaps you will become Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Alistair. And I am extremely concerned about the future of our country," Alexandra replied. To this, the guy said that what is in his head and what is in his shorts are different things. These words made the girl nervous with shame. She called the maids to calm her down a little and bring her to her senses. Killian looked at her and thought she was beautiful. "But I had no idea that such a beautiful woman could be so annoying. If I had known, I would have broken all ties and fled to the neighboring kingdom," thought the Lord. Thinking about this, Killian couldn't help but smile. "You are smiling after putting me in such an awkward position? Let's break off the engagement," Alexandra suggested. Killian replied that if it were up to him, he would have done this last fall. When he got up from the table and approached her, the girl was scared. She didn't know what he was up to. "Before marriage, you should become a calmer lady. Otherwise, on the first wedding night, the naked bride will be gagged," Killian said in her ear and left. Alexandra shouted after him that he was crazy. "He's definitely crazy. I'd rather die than marry him," she decided. Sandy was on the train. Today is the anniversary of her mother's death, and she was traveling to her hometown to visit her grave with her father. Carlton is a small town with nothing special about it except its famous marble quarry. In her hometown, they called her Special. The only daughter of the Willie family, Special Sandy, is a strange child. As a child, her dad told her that being different was not so bad. Thanks to these simple words, she decided to become as strange as she wanted. And when she turned 15, she didn't get married. Instead, Sandy went to Riverton to become a maid. And the girl confidently ascended to the pedestal of Carlton's strangeness. The girl told her father that she saw Alexandra Clement. The father asked what she was like. "As they say, too beautiful to be ashamed to have the same name," Sandy replied. The girls born on the same day are the youngest daughter of Count Clement, the owner of the quarry, and the daughter of Matthew Willie, who works in this quarry. Sandy's mother, hearing the name of the Count's daughter, named the baby Alexandra, hoping that with such a name she would live a little more nobly. But after people made fun of her, they began to call her Sandy. "No matter how beautiful this Miss Alexandra is, the best for me is Alexandra Willie," her father told her. The girl replied that she was pleased to be the best, at least for him. Her father said that she needed to find a man who would think the same way. Sandy promised her father that she would become the head maid at Shanbury Manor, and before that, no wedding. The girl was boarding the return train, and her father asked her to monitor her health so as not to leave him as early as her mother. Sandy promised to live happily ever after. The servant informed Killian that after the joint meeting, there would be a lunch with the members of the house at Lord Grenville's estate, and Lord Killian knocked and entered the room. "Grandfather, I'm going ahead," he said to the old gentleman at the table in his office. "Will you vote against me today?" he asked his grandson. Killian replied that he was his obedient grandson at home and his opponent in politics. Therefore, he will insist on reforms. The guy believed that the ideology of the Conservative Party, which feeds on young children, was too pathetic. Killian supported the bill, which others did not like. Ban on low-paid work for children under 13 years of age. Establishment of public schools and compulsory basic education for all children. It was a bill that passed by one vote because Killian, as his grandfather's political opponent, voted yes. When the Winfrids Act, history changes. Will Killian Winfrid be another confirmation? If so, then Duke Winfrid should take one of the seats in the Senate, thought the old man. Alexandra Clement ran into her brother's office and again asked not to attend the official dinner with the Winfrids. The girl begged her brother to cancel everything. And he replied, "No matter what you do, the father who indulged you is no more, Alexander. Killian Winfrid is your father's last gift to you. If you, through your unreasonable actions, miss out on the betrothed one who was handed to you on a silver platter, no one else will take care of you, so behave accordingly." The brother ordered the maids to dress Alexandra more beautiful than ever and added, "Beauty is the only thing you can offer, so use your fox nature." The maid calmed the crying lady. "Think about the good. Imagine how many ladies are willing to give everything in order to exchange even a few phrases with Killian Winfrid." Alexandra told the maid that she simply did not know how low-grade this Killian Winfrid was, and she told her what he had said about their wedding night. "Why did my father leave me? If I can't meet a man who will love me just like my father, I'd rather die," she told the maid. The maid asked the mistress not to say such terrible things, and all Alexandra wanted now was for a thunderstorm to begin. Then maybe she won't have to go to him. At this time, Sandy was looking for truffles in the rain with other maids for a formal dinner, since these are the young master's favorite mushrooms. Lightning struck first the tree near which Sandy was picking mushrooms and then herself. The last thing she saw was truffles spilling out of her basket onto the ground. At this moment, Alexandra, along with her maid, was riding in a carriage to an official reception with the Winfreds. The next lightning struck their carriage directly. Sandy opened her eyes. 2 maids stood in front of her, but they were not from Chambéry. She was not in the dorm room, and for some reason they called her Madam. The girl looked at her hands. They were too snow-white for a maid, as if they had never been immersed in water. Sandy looked in the mirror and did not believe that this was possible. Killian at this time was very saddened by the loss of his best maid. It seemed to him that everything was wrong, everything was out of place, and everything around was too dirty. Going out into the corridor, he met his assistant. The guy told him that the Duke had ordered to visit Alexandra Clement and inquire about her health. Killian calmly agreed and replied that they would be leaving in half an hour. His calmness and humility greatly surprised his assistant. The gentleman asked the guy what he was instructed to do. "Are you talking about the Sandy incident? Of course, this is a sad incident, but she is just a maid. Is there a need for it?" "It's better to just hush up this incident," the assistant replied. Killian was about to leave, but after these words he stopped and asked, "Henry, who am I?" "You are a young master, heir to the Winfred family, a member of the Council of the Great Kingdom of Alistair." Killian smiled and said, "If you know everything, then what's the matter, Henry?" "I'm a politician. It was an accident that happened on our family estate. We must take responsibility as a politician who bears the name Winfred." "That's right, Duke, I am me, but now I'm not me," said Alexandra. But the gentleman did not understand anything. The maid then said that the lady must have hit her head during the accident. Duke Clement asked the maid what the doctor said. The girl replied that there were no external injuries, but due to a serious incident, there was a possibility of clouding of reason. "Duke, you probably don't believe my words, but take me back to the Chambéry Castle so we can find out everything. If I meet the real me there—" She didn't finish. "Hysterics and fainting had no effect, and you decided to change tactics, Alexandra?" asked the Duke. The girl again began to explain that she was not Alexandra Clement. The maid told the master that a message had arrived from Chambéry, that Killian Winfred would soon come to visit his mistress. The Duke jumped in surprise. "This little fox will demand the termination of the engagement as soon as he sees her." The Duke grabbed his head. "Sir, please send me home to Chambéry," she begged. "Could you close your mouth, Alexandra? Something strange has come over you before, but now, maybe you really are possessed by the ghost of the maid who died that day?" said the brother. The girl started screaming that she was not dead and she was here. The brother told the maid to give her sleeping pills and to tell Killian that she had not yet recovered and left. The maids wanted to give the girl sleeping pills, but she knew that if she took it, she would sleep for a few more days. She had to say that she was not dead, that Sandy Willie was alive. And the girl ran out into the street and ran after Duke Killian's carriage. He noticed her and came out of the carriage to meet her. Alexandra lost consciousness from running after the carriage. "This aristocrat is fragile like a porcelain doll. I almost died from a short jog," Sandy thought when she came to her senses. She was in the big bed in Alexandra's room. She decided to become Alexandra Clement. This is the only way to get out of this house. Therefore, when the maid came, she tried to behave similarly. She was fed and she understood one simple thing. In any incomprehensible or difficult situation, you can simply faint. This is a common thing for aristocrats. Old Mr. Winfred told his grandson that he was worried about the health of Alexandra Clement and wished her a speedy recovery. Killian replied that she would be fine. He decided there was no need to discuss what happened on the day of his visit. "I heard that you paid compensation to the family of the maid who died that day," his grandfather told him. "Yes, she was a dedicated and diligent worker. Sandy left this world while she was at work, so I decided that I had to take responsibility," Killian replied. Old Mr. Winfried praised his grandson and said that he had become quite an adult. I'm a politician, the guy answered. And he added that she was the only one who could withstand his difficult character. Afterwards, Mr. Winfred asked why reform supporters were opposing the new budget draft. Killian replied that there was too much waste in it. During this time, Madame Alexandra Clement suffered from extreme attention from her maids. They did everything for her and did not let her be alone. Finally, after bathing procedures, she had such a chance. The girl realized that washing and dressing up was not such a simple task as it seemed at first glance. Alexandra took one coin from the dresser drawer. She confidently decided to find Sandy Willie. The girl decided to take advantage of the moment while no one was there and sneak out of the palace. Mr. Killian was sitting at a table with his assistant Henry. "About, young master, that girl walking through the station doesn't look like Madame Clement?" he asked. "What are you talking about? This greenhouse flower won't even take a step out of the estate," Killian answered without looking in the girl's direction. But the guy asked him to take a look. "Indeed she is, and there are no maids. I wonder where she's going alone," Killian said. He really wanted to follow her, but there were other important things to do. For the residents of the small village in front of the Matthew Quarry, Willie has now become a symbol of misfortune. She was picking mushrooms and fell off a cliff? She must have fallen on the carriage of that aristocratic lady. He lost his wife when he was young, and now his only daughter has left him. She would live happily ever after if she got married. Otherwise, she dreamed of becoming a maid. They sat around. Alexandra saw her father going to her grave. She watched him from afar. The father cried and apologized to his daughter at the grave for the fact that she had such a life. She so wanted to come up and tell him, "No, father, I'm here, I am alive." But she decided that she should not bring pain and suffering to her father, and left. How strange can this girl be? Thought Killian, looking out onto the street from the carriage. The Duke asked the servant to bring him a girl who was sitting at the bus stop. "Good afternoon, madam. Come with me, the master is waiting for you," said the servant, approaching Alexandra, and pointed to the carriage of the young Master Winfried. "If I refuse the groom and wait for the stagecoach, this will arouse suspicion," the girl thought, and walked with him to the carriage. She got into the carriage opposite Mr. Killian. "Oh, you seem very busy today, Miss Clement," said Killian. Alexandra replied, "I was visiting a friend, sir," she answered, looking at the floor.
Then she realized that she had said master and corrected herself. "No, Lord Winfred." Killian glanced at the girl. The cloak is covered in dust, and he clutches several coins in his hands.
He thought she got off easy, but it looks like something happened to her head, although she never had any common sense, in Killian's opinion. "We will take you home, Miss Alexandra Clement," said the Lord, but the girl was silent. "Today you are just quieter than water, lower than the grass. Have you decided to become a more reserved lady?" he added. Alexandra replied that it was so. Then the guy said that he hoped that she would not change her decision and they would be able to avoid being silenced on their wedding night. The girl was shocked by this terrible and vulgar fact, and Killian was surprised by her reaction. She didn't even express her indignation. She still hasn't recovered? He thought. Alexandra ran out of the carriage and went to the castle. Killian called out to her and asked if she was going to give him the coins she was holding. The girl obediently approached and put 2 coins in his hand. She thought that she would pay him 2 coins as the fare for the stagecoach. The guy stood dumbfounded. Then Alexandra put another coin in his hand and left. Killian stood with coins in his hand and did not understand why she really paid him money for travel. He looked after her. Her gait was not graceful, but more like the gait of a fat pigeon. "My bride is definitely a very interesting person," the guy thought. "Give me back my body," the girl heard, lying in bed. When Sandy first encountered this hallucination, she thought she was having a nightmare. She knew that she was an uninvited guest in someone else's body. "This vile maid has so brazenly taken over my body. It's dirty, I can't stand it. Leave my body," Alexandra screamed. Alexandra's ghost punched Sandy, but she didn't feel anything. The ghost promised that he would not leave the girl alone if she used his body. Alexandra Clement ran into her brother's office and shouted, "Brother, I don't want to go to this ball in the royal palace." The guy said that she had finally recovered. "I can't be there under any circumstances, I can't," the girl wailed. "I thought playing socialite was your only entertainment," the brother replied. The Duke asked his sister to calm down and put herself in order, adding that fainting will not help her and he will simply throw her unconscious into the carriage. and she will go to the ball. After some time, Alexandra, in a beautiful dress, was already sitting in the carriage with Mr. Killian. She really wanted to look at him. But Sandy looked away, even though the guy was even more beautiful today than usual. Killian thought she wanted to tell him something as the girl looked at him. Alexandra blushed after he asked this. She didn't know what to do because the old Alexandra hated her fiancé. "It's not surprising that you like me. You can tremble as much as you want because you are my bride," Killian said. "If you want, I can even do it like this," the guy said and touched her face with his hand. Sandy was incredibly pleased to feel his touch. But she decided to just close her eyes so as not to react to it in any way. This reaction surprised Killian very much, because she should have been indignant. At the ball, their couple was announced. Lord Killian Winfred and Mrs. Alexandra Clement have arrived. Sandy held on to her fiancé. The king and queen sat in front of them. Alexandra asked Killian what she should do, and he replied that you need to hold your breath and bow before the king. The girl did so when they came closer. Then the former mistress's friends noticed Alexandra and began to paint about her health, and also praise what kind of groom she grabbed. Killian wished Alexandra to settle down well with her friends. Sandy grabbed his hand and asked him not to leave her alone. Her friends noticed that she was not the same as before. "What can you do, ladies? Today I will steal your precious friend so you can talk to my fiancé another time," Killian said, and took Alexandra with him. When they went out onto the balcony, he offered her a little drink and handed her a glass. Sandy took a sip and, in surprise, spat the alcohol onto the ground. Seeing that the liquid had gotten on her fiancé's shoes, she began to wipe them off. Killian sat down to her and asked, "What is on your mind, Alexandra Clement?" "I have, Master, I'm Sandy," she replied. But suddenly loud music started playing and drowned out her words, and Killian offered her a dance. Sandy remembered her father's words about how she couldn't dance with her groom before the wedding. He always said that when he saw her dance, but it was a dance in the palace with the master, and she agreed. They became a couple, and Killian asked the girl to behave as before so that he would not be ashamed. In secular circles, Alexandra was called the Blue Butterfly. On the day of her debut, instead of a white dress, she wore a blue one, and was beautiful, like a sophisticated butterfly. From that day on, she played this role unwaveringly, at least until today's dance. Sandy stepped on the gentleman's feet, and he was indignant that he asked her without any frills, but she swore it wasn't on purpose. "Even if I try, I can't help myself," admitted Alexandra. Killian thought it wasn't like she was faking it. The girl stepped on his feet again, and Killian said, "We're not in a place to do whatever we want. Let's stop this before we finally turn into a laughingstock." Alexandra asked how she could do this. Killian invited her to show off her special skill. "Isn't it like your style to immediately faint?" asked the Lord. "Right here? Are we in the palace?" the girl asked in surprise. "When did that stop you? In any case, fainting will definitely be better than such a dance," answered the gentleman. "If you lost consciousness because you haven't left yet after what happened," he added. Alexandra asked him when to fall, and the guy answered that now. The girl fainted, and the Lord picked her up and carried her outside in his arms. People were talking about how romantic it was, and the fact that Alexandra is not yet completely healthy. When they were already sitting in the carriage, Killian told Alexandra that she could already open her eyes. He joked that she looked like a caterpillar squirming in his arms. He smiled, and Sandy smiled too. She was happy to see his bright smile again, like when she first started working as a maid in Chambéry. Then, while cleaning his room, she told her friend that she felt like a queen, reigning in the kingdom of dust with a broom and a rag. Mr. Killian heard this conversation, approached her and said, "Perhaps you will win this war with dust, Your Majesty," and smiled at her as brightly as now. Sandy was so embarrassed that she wanted to die at that moment, but at the same time she was so happy that the young master smiled at her as brightly as he did now. Killian asked Alexandra to raise her head and look him in the eyes, but she knew that as soon as she looked into his eyes, she would blush again. He cupped her face with his hands and looked into her eyes. "Lady Clement, this dance was not false. Did you really lose your memory because of that incident?" asked the Lord. The girl admitted that there are things that are difficult for her to remember. Killian noticed that, for example, she forgot how to dance. Then Alexandra asked if he thought she was strange. The guy admitted that she was strange from the very first day they met, so it's not surprising to him what's happening to her now. Then Alexandra asked if it was bad to be strange. Killian replied that for some it is better to be strange, but for others, boredom and seriousness are fun. That's why I still haven't broken off our engagement, the Lord admitted. The girl asked if he was joking, and the guy replied that it was possible. They both enjoyed their casual conversation. Killian wished Alexandra good night and she was about to leave, when suddenly she turned around and said, "Oh, Sir Winfried. Sorry, I almost forgot." The girl put 2 coins in his hand for a total of 6 crowns. Killian realized what kind of trip this was. Alexandra asked if she had made a mistake in her calculations. The guy replied that everything was correct. Last time she decided that one trip cost 3 crowns. Anastasia apologized to the gentleman for today and thanked him for having a good time. Killian thanked her in return for this evening, and especially for the dance, although he was amused that she was paying him for the trip again. And the guy smiled again. Sandy lay awake all night, thinking that this smile was meant only for her. But now she knew that the young master smiled like that at everyone. He smiles like that at his dog Logan and his lowly servant Sandy. But it makes me love you even more, young master, the girl said to herself. Today was like a dream. Is this a gift from heaven for the pathetic maid who died young while picking mushrooms? This is what Sandy thought as she stood on the balcony. At least from afar I saw my father, and for some time I was the bride of the young master. Now I feel as if I could calmly and without hesitation return the body to the mistress. It's been 2 weeks since Sandy found herself in Mistress Anastasia's body. Since the mistress did not appear to pick up her body, the girl decided to do what she loved. Sandy has come a long way to build her cleanliness collection here. She tidied up her room a little. Cleaning made her feel alive. "Young master, today you need to go to the Clement estate," his assistant Henry told Mr. Killian. Then he asked when he would visit the ballerina. Killian replied that his relationship with the ballerina was not that serious, and told the assistant that he was ready to go to the estate. "Have your eyes finally noticed the beauty of Lady Clement?" Henry asked. Killian replied that she was cheerful and added that he wanted to find out how much she had changed. Alexandra walked in the garden waiting for Killian to arrive. When he got out of the carriage, she approached him. They looked into each other's eyes. "Last time she tried to look at me furtively, but now she looks at me openly," the guy thought. Then they went into the house. While drinking tea, the guy noticed her bright blue eyes. Previously, he was ready to sell his soul so that Alexandra would keep her mouth shut. However, now she was calmly drinking her tea. The guy smiled and the girl smiled back at him. Killian told her, "You seem very happy today." Sandy told herself that she was Alexandra now and should act like one. So to begin with, she took a couple of sips of tea, instead of drinking the whole cup in one gulp. She considered this tea the most delicious in the world, along with these excellent cookies. Sandy decided that the guy wouldn't notice if she took one cookie. Killian watched her eat. Alexandra offered the guy cookies, but he didn't take them. Then she stood up and brought him a plate. The guy noted that it was funny, and he added that her new hobby as a maid suits her. The girl went to the window, and he stood next to her. "You are a good child, so I know you are in heaven. My beloved daughter, Alexandra, I'm so sorry that you had to leave so early," the father wailed, hugging the monument. He made it himself from marble, which he took from the quarry as a severance pay. It showed his wife hugging their daughter. "I'm sorry, Sandy. I can't live in a house in which everything reminds me of you and your mother," said the father, looking at the house from afar. "Father, it's me, Sandy. Where are you going, Father?" Sandy screamed in her sleep. She jumped up in a cold sweat and realized that it was a dream. The girl decided that she needed to see her father. Having gathered, Alexandra again went by train to the village to visit her father. Unfortunately, the door of the house was locked, and in the cemetery she discovered the very monument from her dream. After the council where Killian Winfried asked everyone again, he rode in a carriage with his assistant Henry. Suddenly, the gentleman asked to stop the carriage. He said that he saw a girl he knew and asked her to leave without him. Alexandra stood on the bridge, and the appearance of the young master surprised her very much. Killian approached her to say hello, and the girl clutched her stomach. He immediately realized that she was hungry and invited her to go have dinner with him first. When they were already sitting in the restaurant and the food arrived, Sandy decided that she needed to eat a little, and then she would have the strength to continue looking for her father. "You seem to have cheered up a little. Then tell me, what were you doing?" Killian asked Alexandra. She replied that she was just taking a walk. Then the guy said, "Is such a distance suitable for walking?" At least make your lies sound convincing. Did you take the train again? Alexandra, I don't know what these secret meetings are, but figure it out before the wedding and I'll do the same, Killian asked. The girl asked what this meant. The guy explained that he did not want to interfere in her love affairs, but after the wedding everything would change. Alexandra was so indignant that she jumped up from the table. She admitted that she actually traveled by train, but this has nothing to do with such assumptions. After all, she is not one of those immoral people who will have affairs behind the groom's back. Killian asked why she didn't tell her where she went on the train. Alexandra was silent, and the guy asked her to eat, promising not to ask her anymore. She began to eat, and he thought about how she had become so submissive. I never thought I'd feel this way about Alexandra Clement. But she's pretty sweet. Not a little at all, the guy thought and smiled. After dinner, Killian hired a high-class carriage as he sent his assistant to the mansion. The girl was wondering how much it might cost to travel there. Sir Winfred, I would like to ask you something. How to find a person, Alexandra finally said. Killian asked which person. The girl replied that the father of one of her maids had disappeared and she wanted to help her find him. The gentleman asked what the man's name was. She couldn't tell Sandy Willie's father's name. Alexandra replied that she did not know his name. Then the guy advised her to contact the police, and if a person disappears, the police will definitely find him. She said that he did not completely disappear, but rather left on his own. Killian asked if he could leave his family. The girl began to defend the maid's father, saying that he was a wonderful father. Killian was surprised that she became so concerned about other people. He told Alexandra that the police would definitely help her, and offered to go there with her. The girl replied that she would definitely contact the police, but refused to accompany her. She thanked her groom for his help, and they got out of the carriage together at her mansion. Alexandra's excited brother ran out into the street and shouted, "Why didn't you warn me that you were going to meet your fiancé?" "Sorry, sir, I should have told you in advance, but I didn't think about it," Killian said. "Were you together all day?" asked the brother. Killian responded positively. Alexandra's brother said they were too careless. Even though they are engaged, they are still not married. The guy apologized and promised that this would not happen again. Alexandra told him, "Thank you, see you soon," and left. And again he thought she was very nice. "Books? Did you just ask about books, Alexandra?" the brother asked in surprise and laughed. The girl said that she did not intend to amuse him, but just wanted to read. "Stop talking nonsense and do what you usually do, Alexandra. The tailor will arrive soon so you can play princess as much as you want," the brother added. "I was always laughed at when I read books as the daughter of a quarry worker. But Mrs. Alexandra is a noble woman." Sandy thought and felt her loneliness. She realized that there was no one in this house who loved her. They either ignore or openly despise. Sandy dusted her room and felt better. Then she took the banknotes and a pen and wrote down 3 points there. The first point is to find the father. The second is to work on endurance so as not to get tired quickly. The third point is to repay the debt to the young master for the city carriage. Sandy wondered if she should pay the gentleman back for dinner as well. "Sorry, young master, I can't get rid of her carelessness. I will assign another maid to clean your room," the head maid said. Of all the maids, only Sandy Willie was the best. Killian thought sadly. The guy decided to go talk to his grandfather, since he had nothing else to do. In the corridor, he stopped at a portrait of his father. Killian was his exact copy. Edwin Winfried is his father, who died suddenly at 34. The guy approached a small, inconspicuous door that was hidden in the wall of the corridor, and remembered how his adventure began with this secret door in childhood. "Father, there's something strange here. There's a strange world outside the door," said little Killian, tugging at his dad's jacket. "This is not a strange world, Killian. Behind the door are the people who created our Chamberlain. Luck made you who you are, and there is a world of people out there who allow you to continue living like this. That's why you can be Killian Winfried. Never forget this, Killian, and only in this way can you become a great politician," answered the father, patting the boy on the head. These were his father's last words as Killian's parents were killed on stage. They were attacked while giving a speech about the need for public education. Hypocrite is how some still call Edwin Winfried. What if we are all hypocrites? I despise rich bastards who profit from poor people. That's how I started going down this path, because I don't want to live a measured life. Perhaps my father felt the same, the guy thought. Killian asked the servants if his grandfather was in the office. The assistant replied that he had just received a guest. Maybe I should spend the evening with my lovely bride, he thought. In Alexandra's room was Jeffrey Crock, the best tailor in Liberton, and he had 2 customers who forced him to go through all kinds of suffering. The first is this charming girl, Alexandra Clement, and the second is her fiancé, Killian Winfried. Alexandra always baffles him with her impossible requests, while Killian is very attentive, even to the smallest details. Although they have different whims, these 2 know how to squeeze all the juice out of him. Of course, despite all the pain they put me through, they provided 80% of my fame, Jeffrey believed. He was very interested in what kind of unusual request Lady Alexandra would have this time. I would like you to sew me at least one simple and practical dress. Don't make the dress too long. Don't add too much embellishment and keep it free to move around. I also want to ask for an apron and a cap, she said. Are you serious? Asked the tailor. Then the girl corrected herself that she needed a simple apron, but an apron in the style of a princess. The tailor was very surprised, but promised to do everything. The maid gave Alexandra a letter from her fiancé Killian. When she unfolded the letter, it read as follows. Lady Alexandra Clement, the evening sky will be clear and the weather will be wonderful. If you have time, would you like to take a walk with me in the Swan Park today? Sandy read the letter and a wide smile immediately appeared on her face. When Killian arrived at the park, Alexandra was already there. He asked how she arrived here before him. The girl replied that the weather was fine and she wanted to go out early. My heart has never beat so much because of Alexandra's beauty. These clear, shining eyes make her look like another person, the guy thought. He took her hand and she obediently let him lead her along the pond with swans. Alexandra closed her eyes and enjoyed the sun, and Killian told her, You look especially beautiful today. The girl was indignant that he said this out of the blue, and the guy replied that he didn't know that she would react like that to the fact that he called her beautiful. You hate it when people flatter you, Alexandra Clement, Killian said. It's true when other people compliment me, the girl replied. So I'm different? Killian asked, approaching her face. Alexandra replied that he was her fiancé, so he was completely different. Then Sandy remembered that Alexandra hated her fiancé, and she couldn't think of anything better than to faint again. Killian said it had been a long time since she had given these performances. Alexandra replied that she was simply dizzy and could not stand on her feet. When they sat down on the bench, the girl said to the groom, In any case, this does not mean that I like you, although I think you know. Honestly, no. I thought you didn't like me, but now I don't think so, Killian replied. That's not true, I don't like you, Alexandra replied. Don't you think that your denial only proves that I'm right? The guy asked. Lady Alexandra replied that this was not so. Then Killian asked the girl if it was strange when she liked the person she was marrying. Married? The girl was frightened. It doesn't matter whether you like me or not, we will still get married. Therefore, wouldn't it be better if you like me? The guy asked. And then Sandy remembered that they were both expecting to get married next summer. And now it turns out that Sandy's maid Willie will marry Duke Killian Winfried. Then they walked silently through the park, and Killian wondered if Alexandra was offended by him for saying that it is better to love the person you marry. Oh, right. I forgot to give this to you last time, the girl said and put a 10-crown coin in his hand. It was a debt for a public carriage. Alexandra told Killian that he could keep the change since the debt was overdue. Then she asked if she should pay him back for dinner. Killian replied that he didn't need money and she could treat him to dinner tonight. Alexandra asked what he would like to eat. The guy replied that last time they went where he liked, so now they will go where she likes. Sandy was looking forward to the delicious food. When they entered an old, inexpensive cafe, Killian asked the girl if she really liked eating here. She replied that her maid told her about this place. Alexandra ordered her favorite dishes and told Killian that it was the maid who said that these dishes were delicious. Who is this gorgeous maid? The guy asked. If she's that close to you, she must be a person of incredible character, Killian said. Sandy thought he was talking about herself and smiled. The girl was happy because Killian ate her favorite food, and it seemed to her that he liked it. She admired him without looking away, and the guy asked her what was the matter. Alexandra replied, You look especially beautiful today. And then she added that that didn't mean she liked him. When they left the cafe, Sandy stared a little at the candy she always bought for herself. Killian immediately noticed this and asked her to choose one. The girl refused, and the Duke thought that his main weakness was her cuteness, not her beauty. He persuaded her, and she chose chocolate caramel. Killian asked the saleswoman how much the candy cost. She named the price 12 crowns. Sandy was very outraged by this because she came here every time after payday and knew the price. The saleswoman first reduced the price to 8, and then to 5 crowns so that the girl would not argue. But Sandy knew that the candy cost 4 crowns. Killian paid 10 crowns for the candy, and Sandy asked him to take the change. The guy walked away and said to Alexandra, "I didn't expect you to know the price, being from a count's family." The girl replied that she knew about this from her maid, and she added, "Having paid 5 crowns, it would not have been a big loss, but you gave her 10. Alexandra, even if this caramel really cost 4 crowns, it's not a big loss," Killian told her. Sandy replied that it was a full 6 crowns more. And if it had been that maid, the saleswoman would have told her the correct price, and so she deceived them and they lost money. Killian replied that he didn't think so. "You and I were born aristocrats, and our wealth cannot be compared with just 6 crowns, the guy added. Alexandra said that he was right, and she would now mean it. They continued to walk around the city, and Sandy thought that she did not know that the life of a nobleman was so different from the life of a maid. "What made you go to Alexandra yourself? Are you starting to like her?" his grandfather asked Killian. The guy asked if it was important. After all, it's still a marriage of convenience. The old gentleman admitted that the engagement was concluded because he wanted to repay his old friend and benefactor. "But even if it's wrong, I hope you'll be happy in this marriage, Killian," his grandfather told him. "Don't worry," the guy reassured him. "She used to be unbearable for me, but these days she's not so bad," Killian admitted. Grandfather suggested that Alexandra was finally starting to grow up. "It's probably hard to explain, but she's not so terrible now," his grandson answered. The old gentleman admitted that now he wants to meet Alexandra, and he offered to organize a banquet in honor of her complete recovery. Killian went to his room and continued to think about his sweet bride. An invitation from Chamberlain? I wonder if I can have my own hat box. It contains letters from my father, my diary, and savings. I hid it under the bed in the dorm, Sandy thought. Alexandra asked the maid to bring her another coat. She needed a coat with big pockets, and the maid was surprised but brought her another light-colored coat. As they rode in the carriage, her brother told Alexandra to behave with dignity and keep her mouth shut, in order not to create problems for Duke Winfred. "Yes, you need to stay away. This is a familiar place, so I can't let Sandy's maid Willie jump out," the girl thought, looking at the castle from the carriage. Sitting already at the table, Sandy didn't know what to do. She usually ate alone at Clement's estate, and it was good that no one paid attention to her when the family ate. And now everyone was watching her. "Alexandra, how are you feeling lately?" asked old Mr. Winfred, and the girl dropped her fork on the floor in surprise. The girl replied that she was fine and thanked the Duke for his concern. Alexandra's brother said she began to mature as her engagement approached. Out of emotion, Alexandra took and drank the contents of the glass in one gulp. Killian told her it was white wine, not water. "You drink well," he added. The girl thanked the groom for the compliment, and he said a phrase that she didn't like. "I feel calm knowing that there is at least something you're good at." "Are you always so irritated?" Alexandra asked. "Of course not," the guy answered. "Then why are you treating me like this?" the girl asked. Killian replied that he had fun teasing her. "Let's raise a glass to your new talent," said Alexandra's fiancé and smiled at her. His smile melted her heart. One elderly lady remembered how beautifully Alexandra played the piano last time. The old gentleman admitted that he would be happy if she played for him. Killian noticed that the girl was uncomfortable. This surprised him because before she liked to show off her talents and she liked to be praised. "Sir Winfred, please help me." The guy heard and saw Alexandra's frightened look. He thought that after that incident, she forgot how to play the piano. Alexandra raised her hand to the keys, but Killian walked up to her and took her hand. "I'm sorry, but my fiancé injured her hand in an accident, so I don't think she should play today. Allow me to speak in her place," said the young Duke. Killian sat down at the piano and looked at the girl. "Alexandra, I will collect my payment later. You know my services are expensive," he told his bride. Killian played beautifully, and Sandy stood fascinated looking at him. She didn't know this side of him. but the girl decided that she would appreciate his action for the rest of her life. Sandy was as happy as a little child and applauded the groom. After everyone started to leave, Sandy took advantage of the moment and got into her room. There, under the bed, she found a box with her savings. The girl filled her pockets with coins and headed out of the room. Killian at this time noticed her absence and began to look for his bride. He walked down the corridor and thought, I wonder if her diligence and curiosity are also side effects after the accident. She used to lie on the sofa when she arrived here. But now she clapped her hands and rejoiced like a child. Usually she just yelled and complained, but this time she smiled so brightly. I didn't know she could be so beautiful. Sandy opened the door and walked out into the hallway. At that moment, Killian was walking there. Okay, I got it. Why, of all people, was it the young master who caught me? She thought. Killian asked the bride what she was doing in the service area, and why, of all the possible places she had come here. Alexandra replied that she was lost. The guy noticed her pockets full of coins and said, Lady Clement, do you seem to be suffering from kleptomania? But the girl objected to his assumption. Please be honest with me. There will be controversy on this basis if the wife of the future prime minister turns out to be a thief, Killian said. But his fiancé denied it. Sir Winfred, will you soon become the prime minister of our kingdom? Asked the girl. The guy replied that he always achieves what he sets out to do. But leave that for later. I just hope that you are not a kleptomaniac, Lady Alexandra Clement, Killian said to his bride. Of course, I would never do anything illegal, I swear to you, Alexandra answered and was about to leave for her brother. But Killian pressed her against the bookshelf. You still owe me? Killian said. You paid for the fare all this time and now you don't show due gratitude when I saved you from public humiliation? Well then, what do I owe you? Asked Alexandra. Killian replied that he had some ideas. He asked the bride how much she appreciated his action. The girl said that his piano playing was so beautiful, that it was far beyond all the money in the world. The lady asked him to tell her the price so that she could repay him. Is it true? Then since I deserve more than some measly money, this is enough for me, Killian said and gently kissed Alexandra's lips. I must have reread the novels. I didn't know a kiss could feel like this. The young master is just as talented in kissing, Sandy thought, closing her eyes. Hey, maid! Maid, I'm talking to you! Shouted the ghost of Mrs. Alexandra, who appeared to the sleeping Sandy at night. The girl woke up and rubbed her eyes. Madam, I didn't think you'd come back, Sandy said. Don't talk nonsense. I won't leave until I get my body back, the ghost answered. The girl asked the lady where she had been all this time and why she didn't come, because she was called. The ghost said, Why should I come at the whims of some maid? I do what I want and come and go as I please. Then Alexandra's ghost forced Sandy to get out of bed and lie down on hers. Sandy stood next to the bed. The girl asked the lady if she had figured out how to get the body back. The ghost answered no. Then Sandy asked why she came back. Didn't you hear me? I come and go whenever I want. Maid, are you taking good care of my body? Asked the ghost of the lady. Sandy remembered that kiss with the young master and immediately blushed. The ghost shouted at her, Did you do something indecent with my body? The girl admitted that there was a kiss between her and the young gentleman. At first, the lady seemed to faint, and then asked how her groom kissed. Sandy replied that it was her first kiss, but it was very good. He must have developed his skills quite a bit after playing with those moths, said the ghost. I expected a slightly different reaction. Madam, are you sure you hate your fiancé, Sir Killian Winfred? Alexandra's ghost told Sandy that she had no right to ask her questions. Finally, the ghost once again reminded the girl to take good care of her mistress's body and not let others begin to suspect something until she finds a solution. Killian was having lunch at a cafe with a friend, and again he noticed Alexandra walking to the station. The guy decided to follow his bride and followed her. I am against leading an indecent life, but I never thought that I would go against the principles towards women, and Alexandra Clement including. This is crazy. I can't believe I'm stalking a bride. There's nothing more recent than this. And she behaves suspiciously but funny, the guy thought while sitting on the train. When Sandy got off the train, the first thing she did was go to her father's house and check the doors and everything around her. There were no signs that anyone had come. Then she went to her and her mother's grave. There was a monument there that my father made himself from the marble he mined from the quarry. The girl sat down in front of the monument and said, What did I do to deserve this? I wanted to live an honest life like Sandy Willie. I didn't want to steal someone else's body, steal someone else's life. If I knew how I would return the body to Mrs. Clement right now, I would rather go to my mother in heaven like the real Sandy Willie, the lady said, and noticed the guy. Alexandra and Killian were sitting on a bench, and after a short silence, the guy said, "How long will you remain silent?" The girl apologized to him, but he replied that he did not mean an apology. Then the lady said, "I know my behavior seems suspicious. In fact, I am Alexander's maid." Killian laughed and told her, "Alexandra, I'm actually a unicorn." The lady was indignant that she was telling the truth and he was not, although she knew that no one would believe her. Therefore, Alexandra said, "Sorry, Sir Winfred, I went too far." "Thank God, otherwise I was afraid it was a serious head injury," the guy answered with relief. Killian asked the bride to tell her the real reason for coming here. The girl replied that she had to meet someone. She had nothing left to lose. "Were you supposed to meet him in secret in a quiet town in a cemetery? Is this some kind of man?" the groom asked her. And Sandy honestly answered, "Yes, because the father is a man." Killian replied that she was quite brave, but it would cause problems for them. Alexandra told her groom that she couldn't tell all the details, but there was nothing shameful about it. The Duke stood up from the bench and said, "Okay, I won't peek anymore, but Alexandra, that's enough for today." The girl reminded the groom of what he had said earlier. "Didn't you say that you wouldn't say a word to me until we were married?" Lady Alexandra asked. Killian replied that he took back his words. "I don't have much patience for this kind of relationship, and today it has run out," the guy added. Sandy wanted to somehow calm him down, and she remembered that she had something sweet with her. "Sit down and eat, Sir Winfred," said Alexandra and handed the candy to the groom. "Is this caramel from that day?" Killian asked in surprise, sitting down on the bench again. "You brought my gift with you, despite the fact that you came to meet another man?" he added, and did not understand why she came to this wilderness. "But why are you here, Sir Winfred? Why did you follow me?" Lady Alexandra asked. Killian replied that she was acting too suspicious. The girl replied that he should have asked her personally. The guy replied that she would lie or say it was a secret. The lady replied that it was. "But Sir Winfried, if I don't date anyone, does that mean you won't do this anymore with those ballerinas and actresses?" she asked. "Why? Do you really want to start acting like Killian Winfred's wife?" the Duke clarified. Alexandra asked him if they hadn't been engaged since last year. The guy replied that it was, but neither of them acted like an engaged couple. The girl said that she would try to be a good bride for him. "Please become my real groom," Sandy asked. "Okay, Alexandra, let's act like a real engaged couple." Killian agreed. They brought a letter to Alexandra, but she could not bring herself to open it since it was not hers. But the ghost of the lady ordered her to stick to her role, so she opened the envelope. It was a letter from Killian Winfred, and it said, "I'm glad you decided to act like my real bride. I will watch you do it." Lady Alexandra asked her maid what the Alistair Society was. She replied that congressmen's brides and grooms get together to do community service. "Madam, you always received several letters of invitation, but you always refused. As a result, Sir Winfred also refused," said the maid. "But Sir Winfried is not fair. Your body is weak and fragile, but it still sends invitations knowing that it will be too much," the maid added indignantly. Alexandra told her that she promised him to be a good bride. The maid was afraid that the mistress would faint again, but she promised to be careful. "It must have been hard serving Lady Alexandra, but the maids are surprisingly kind to her," Sandy thought. And another maid came into her room. "Madam, there is a letter for you from Chamberlain," she said. Sandy was surprised that the letter was from there again. It turned out to be an invitation to the Royal Theatre for a ballet. "Seeing Sir Winfred enter the theatre, tonight's performance will start off well," said one girl. "I'll be surprised if the dancers get their applause," said the guy. "Did something good happen?" Killian asked his fiancée. Alexandra replied that the theatre was so wonderful and smiled happily. "You might think that this is your first time at the theatre, Alexandra," said the Duke. "First time? How rude, Sir Winfred," the girl replied, pretending to be offended. When Sandy picked up the binoculars for the performance, her fiancé said she was looking the wrong way. "She looks like a child who is at the theatre for the first time," Killian thought. He remembered how Alexandra behaved the last time they were at the theater. "Oh, I can't stand it. You know that I have a fear of heights. Oh, my head is spinning. When will this opera end?" The guy listened that time. By the time the opera ended, he wanted to jump off the balcony. Killian looked back at his happy bride and asked, "You must be having fun?" "Yes, it's so beautiful. Now I understand why you like ballerinas," Alexandra answered. The guy didn't like this phrase, although Sandy didn't want to offend him. "Alexandra, you promised to behave like my real bride," he said. "Of course, I received an invitation from the Alistair sorority and accepted it," Sandy answered him. Killian asked why she didn't send a reply. In fact, Sandy simply did not know the etiquette of writing letters in high society. Therefore, she replied that she wanted to tell him in person first. Then Killian told the bride that Idis would be here today, and she could give her answer herself. But the problem was that Sandy didn't know who Idis was. Alexandra noticed that all the people in the room were looking at them and asked Killian about it. He replied that they were looking at him because the show was ending. "Do you want to see something funny, Alexandra?" the Duke asked and stood up from his seat. The whole hall watched his movements. He sat back down, and they sat in silence. As soon as Alexandra started clapping and Killian repeated after her, the entire hall erupted into applause. The girl said it was strange. She asked the groom why people try to repeat after them. Killian replied that this is the type of person who prefers to behave like higher ranks rather than think with his own head. When there was complete silence in the hall, Sandy again began to applaud the ballet actors. Killian said that she really seemed to enjoy the show. "Yes, I don't know much about ballet, but this performance touched me and the actors were very beautiful," the girl replied. Duke said the performance was average. Alexandra said that she respects his opinion, since he has a lot of knowledge and high standards for this kind of thing, but she has her own opinion. "I don't have to clap just because you clap or stop clapping because you stopped. Besides, performances leave everyone with their own emotions," she added. After the performance, when the couple was already walking through the foyer of the theater, Killian was called out by the guy who was with the lady. They came closer to each other. The guy said that Tartini was upset that the Duke did not give the standard ovation. Killian replied that they were in vain expecting sustained applause. "You still shine, Lady Clement," said the guy. "Hello, Sir Wesley. Today you look great too," Alexandra replied. "And you look pretty nice too, madam," Alexandra said to the girl who was with him. The guy replied that his Idis was very beautiful. And Sandy realized that this was the Idis from the sorority that Killian was talking about. And she is Sir Wesley's fiancée. Now at least something became clear to her. "By the way, Lady Brighton, Alexandra will be attending the next sorority fundraiser," said Killian Idis. Lady Idis asked Alexandra if she was definitely not against participation. The girl replied that she had finally recovered and could not wait to work in the community. Lady Brighton was very surprised by this reaction. After all, a few months ago when she invited Lady Clement to join the meeting, she was not very nice. "I suppose you should at least behave yourself, Lady Bryson. As for me, I have neither reason nor desire to strain myself like that," Alexandra replied then. As they said goodbye, Sandy told Killian that Lady Bryson seemed like a good person. The guy said that she used to call her a gross fake. Killian told the bride that if she wanted to provoke the other volunteers, then she should simply step aside as she had done before. The girl asked the groom if he had not gone through many difficulties to send her this invitation. Killian admitted that he did it to tease her, and the Duke added that he did not think that she would actually go there. "I will go. I promise to behave like a real bride. I always try to keep my promises," Sandy said. The Duke asked her since when. The girl answered, "Always." Sandy always tried to do everything well. Diligence was a good quality in Sandy Willie's life. "Do not worry. As your fiancé, I promise that I will give it my all and finish my volunteer work without any problems," Alexandra promised. Killian said that her confidence scares him. "Wonderful, what a beautiful dress. I didn't think an apron could be so cute. The frills are great and the fabric is very soft," Sandy said, looking at the dress. The girl added that this dress is truly worthy of a real princess, and the tailor thought it was a little strange that the lady was so happy about the apron. And when the lady said she was going to wear the dress to a charity event tomorrow, the tailor couldn't believe he had created a dress for housework. "Oh my God, Lady Clement actually showed up, I can't believe it, and she's dressed like a maid." Other ladies from the community were discussing when Alexandra entered the house. she greeted Lady Bryson, and she complimented her on her dress and asked again if cleaning would be too difficult for her. Sandy replied that she would give it her all and wouldn't back down until it was all done. Itis was surprised by Alexandra's persistence and hard work, but they got to work. A little later, the guys arrived. Coming out of the carriage, one guy said that he was betting that Lady Clement had already fainted, and another bet that she ran home crying. Another guy assumed that she hadn't come at all and suggested that Killian place his bet. The Duke told his friend to shut his mouth. Mother came out to meet them and said, "Welcome, Congressman. Your lovely wives and brides have been helping us since the morning. Even your bride has joined us, Sir Winfred. She is simply incredible. I was so surprised. Everyone was shocked. She helped us a lot." As Killian walked down the corridor towards the room where his fiancée, Lady Alexandra Clement, was cleaning, he overheard a conversation between two ladies overseeing her cleaning. "How does she clean so well? The lady has probably never held it in her hands," said one girl. "Exactly, but I don't think my maids are as good at cleaning as Lady Clement. After I saw Lady Clement today, I felt like I wasn't trying hard enough. We volunteer, but not sincerely enough," said another lady. Killian looked into the room and saw how his bride was cleaning, and everything around was sparkling with cleanliness. "She's actually cleaning, and not just pretending," he thought. If Alexandra were a real maid, she would definitely be accepted for this position, the guy decided. He immediately remembered his talented maid, Sandy Willie. Since the day she died, the Duke's room has been in constant disarray. But at the thought that Alexandra Clement can save me, he feels uneasy. "Sir Winfred, you are the luckiest man in the kingdom. You have found yourself such a beautiful and pure-hearted bride." "I thought I saw a fairy of purity," said the guy at the table. After cleaning, all the guests sat down to dinner. Killian glanced at Alexandra, but she quickly turned away. Sandy knew she would immediately smile when she saw his face. And she wanted to act like a lady and not let Killian know her feelings. The guy was upset that she was so nice to other people, but cold to him. He didn't understand her. She always behaved so sweetly, and now having been cured, it's like she's come to her senses. Although, then she would not have put so much effort into volunteer activities. Sandy wanted to use a fork but didn't know which one to use. Killian, noticing this, thought that she wanted to take revenge on him here, in front of all the guests. He prompted her and helped her choose the right knife. The other guys' wives began to praise the caring Duke. "You should learn from him," said one. "And you only pay attention to your food," said another. "He is not only handsome but also caring," they heard. Killian continued to court Alexandra, and his friends were outraged by this. "If I don't help her, she'll just be embarrassed. Let them better think that I am a fool who fell for her beauty. Just wait, Alexandra, I'll make you embarrassed next time," thought the Duke. "Madam, Lady Alexandra, can you appear now? I would like you to come. I tried my best to behave just like you, but I think it's too much for one person. I had no idea how complex the manners of aristocrats are. I was looking for a book with etiquette rules, but I couldn't find it anywhere. Even if I went to buy one in a store, dancing, piano, foreign languages, drawing, singing, literature. How am I supposed to learn all these things? You show up unexpectedly at the wrong time, but don't come when I'm waiting for you. You are too cruel, madam," Sandy said. And while wiping her tears, she noticed an envelope on the table. "I look forward to seeing you play the role of my real bride. This weekend is the Crown Prince's birthday, Killian Winfred," she read. "You are cruel too, young master," Sandy said out loud. She thought he looked like a perfect angelic gentleman, but he must be vindictive and petty. "Young master, you seem to be in a very good mood today," the guy said. "It was a good evening, don't you think so, Henry?" Killian asked the assistant. But he stood under an umbrella near the carriage and thought that today it had been cloudy all day, and in the evening it started to rain. "Why is the gentleman so happy?" "Oh, you look quite happy, Killian," said the old gentleman sitting in the carriage. The guy answered his grandfather that it was a pleasant evening, but he looked outside the window and was surprised. "Just wait and see, funny Alexandra. I will be the one who wins today," the Duke thought and smiled to himself. Their carriage was approaching the palace. When Killian got off the carriage, he met Alexandra at the palace. She wanted to greet him like always, but remembered that she wanted to be more reserved. In the palace, the Duke invited Alexandra to dance, and she was again afraid to dance. Then he reminded her that she promised to behave like his real bride. "I don't think we should dance," After all, you saw how it happened last time, and from that moment nothing has changed, the girl asked. Don't say you're going to dance like last time. Throw away the consequences and become a high society butterfly again, Killian said, and led her to dance in the center of the hall. Sandy couldn't do it and stepped on the Duke's feet. He asked her to concentrate and remember the steps from last time. Killian thought her memory was back. It seemed to the girl that today the groom was deliberately humiliating her and said, I don't want to faint again, so I'll stop this nightmare. You'd better dance with someone else, said Alexandra, and left. She ran out into the corridor and cried because she could not cope with Mrs. Alexandra's instructions. I'm sorry, madam, I'm sorry, but I couldn't help it. The young master is angry. I just realized how cruel he was, Sandy cried. Look, she's back. I knew it was a lover's quarrel. This has happened many times. I remember how I also started arguing while we were dancing, one girl discussed. But why did Lady Clement dance like that? Even if she didn't fully recover, didn't it seem a little strange? Another asked. I felt bad after running away like that. But he dances so carefree with another girl. The young master is strikingly different from himself. I thought he was real. My heart was beating so fast that I couldn't sleep at night, Sandy recalled, hiding behind a column in the hall. Would you like a drink, my lady? Asked the servant, who came up with a tray and glasses filled with champagne. The girl drank one glass. Then she took another glass and noticed the look of the hero of today's celebration, an heir to the throne, Crown Prince Leopold Fraser. The prince approached Alexandra. Meanwhile, Killian began to look for his bride. He felt guilty for offending her again, but when he noticed her with someone else, he became angry. The guy was surprised. Who is this with her? Crown Prince Leopold Fraser, a natural man in this kingdom who, I suppose, is allowed to be a little better than me. I am superior to him in terms of intelligence, appearance, and skills, but he is superior to me in terms of status. So why is my fiancé talking to him in front of everyone? Killian considered his options. The first is to pretend you didn't see them. After all, the Crown Prince has no reason to communicate with his bride, and this is the simplest solution. The second option is to smile and say hello. Alexandra is his fiancée, so it's a good decision if a little awkward. And the third option is to confront them. This is what he wanted least of all. The Duke decided that it would be wise to come between them, even though it was awkward. Hi, dear, where are you? Oh, and His Highness is here too. What are you talking so sweetly about here? Killian asked. The prince replied about how many people there are. For someone who likes to play the queen at aristocratic gatherings, she must have made a lot of effort to talk to the antisocial prince, the Duke thought. And you aimed high, Alexandra, he said to the bride. The girl didn't understand what he was talking about and asked Killian what he meant. And the guy said, becoming a duchess is not enough for someone who wants to become a queen. That's why you kept talking about ending our engagement?
I understand. But no matter how grandiose your ambitions are, you will still marry the Duke. Prince Leopold is not a bad guy, but remember, Alexandra, I'm better than him in everything.
But you are the son of a duke. Don't you think it's unfair to underestimate the crown prince like that? Alexandra said. Killian was amazed that she stung with a smile on her face. You're actually the count's daughter, the guy shouted at her. Then, having calmed down a little, he said, Okay, Alexandra, don't forget that you will soon become a duchess. I will never allow you to break off the engagement if only for the sake of the kingdom. Sandy thought. So that's what you meant, lady. Young Master Winfred is reasonable and gentle, but as a suitor he is irrational and ungrateful. The only thing that hasn't changed about him is his beautiful appearance. This is the only thing that unites these two ridiculous personalities. And yet why are you still blushing after the young prince has left, my lady? Asked the Duke. It was actually the champagne that made Sandy blush, but she didn't want to talk about it. You are quite artistic. I think many will think that you want to be a duchess, the guy said, coming closer to her. Alexandra asked why he switched from ordinary speech to formal one. This is to make you blush, Killian said as he pulled her close and kissed her. The girl kissed him back because, after all, it was her Duke. Sandy was sitting in her room reading books. She was sad that she didn't understand anything. Suddenly, she was frightened by the ghost of a lady who appeared out of nowhere. The lady, as usual, lay down on her bed and pointed at the books. They are useless. Sandy asked what she should do then, because soon everyone would understand that she was not an aristocrat. The ghost was indignant that he ordered her to behave like Mistress Alexandra. The girl said that she was trying her best, but it was so difficult. Can you teach me? Sandy asked. The mistress replied that the thing she doesn't like most in life is to study and teach someone, and moreover, a maid. Sandy asked what she should do now. You already have a walking aristocratic book, answered the ghost of the lady. She explained that it was about Killian. He is rude, but when it comes to aristocratic customs, he is the best in the kingdom. And he is smart, although this makes him narcissistic, said the lady. Sandy said that she could not ask the master to teach her. The ghost said that it would definitely be better than reading strange books. But the girl doubted. You have taken over my body, so you must take responsibility and maintain my status and dignity as the queen of high society, said the ghost. Sandy finally asked if the ghost knew where her father was now. He replied that he didn't even know who she was talking about, and before leaving, he again ordered her to take care of her mistress's body. Lady Alexandra came out to the carriage, and Killian said to her, I am very flattered, my lady, that you came out to greet me. The girl smiled joyfully at him. But then, she remembered the lady's words and said that she had no choice. Killian didn't understand why she acted like she had two personalities. As they drank tea, Sandy looked at the young master. Even with the same gestures, he looked more elegant and respectable than other people. But Sandy was only thinking about how to ask him to become her teacher. She asked Killian if he was busy in the next few days. The Duke asked to get closer to the point. Then the girl asked him to teach her to dance. The guy replied that he did not want to do this, and Alexandra reminded him that this was their joint work. Sir Winfred, I give you the opportunity to become my teacher, since I have lost my memory, said Alexandra Clement. Killian replied that he absolutely refused. The girl reminded them of their promise to become a real engaged couple. The Duke replied that this did not oblige him to be her teacher. Sir Winfred, think about it. As a couple, we need to understand and respect each other and protect our dignity, Lady Alexandra said. Despite my frail body, I participated in volunteer activities for you. You can't even imagine how hard it was for me. Therefore, now you must offer efforts to defend my honor. If I make a mistake, it will affect my reputation. And since we are engaged, this will affect Winfred's family. Do you really want to be criticized because your wife doesn't know the rules of etiquette and doesn't know how to dance? Alexandra insisted. Killian asked if Clement's family didn't have enough money to provide her with a good tutor. Alexandra was indignant at this stupid question. Oh my God, Sir Winfred. What if rumors spread because of this? Wouldn't this be detrimental to you when you become Alistair's Prime Minister, Sir Winfried? I will feel terrible if because of me you don't become Prime Minister, the girl said, making a sweet face and folding her hands as if in prayer. Killian wondered since when she became so eloquent, and he answered her that this would not prevent him from becoming Prime Minister, because he was sophisticated and intelligent. Of course it is. However, do you think that people like politicians get engaged to idiots? My father once said that like attracts like. Therefore, let's try together. Alexandra did not back down. Killian told her that there was no together and he did not agree to be her teacher. The Duke thought that being persistent about something illogical somehow made her more convincing. His fiancée has the potential to become the best schemer in the Winfred family. Killian gave up and asked, Do you think you can do this, Alexandra? The girl was happy and replied that she would do her best. With me as a teacher, you must succeed no matter what. You must be excellent. And let me tell you in advance, I won't bother with you and listen to your whining, he added. Sandy was willing to do anything to learn. Her mother was the one who decided that she needed to learn to read and write. The family could not afford to send her to school, but my mother said that in the nearest village there is a teacher who teaches children from such families for free. The father asked how the girl would get there. Mom said that she would accompany her daughter until she learned the way. Her father was worried about how she would cope with her health. The wife replied that she would go with her once a week, and from that day on, every Wednesday, Sandy walked 20 kilometers to the neighboring village to learn to read and write. Mom went with her for the first month, and then the girl got there herself. Thanks to this, Sandy became an energetic child, and while running to school, explored the world. Sandy became the only girl in the mining village who could read and write. People offended her, but her mother looked at her daughter as if she were the whole world. The girl loved to read books to her mother, and her mother always listened to them with great interest. Her mother really wanted her to grow up knowing that there was something in the world other than a village. Alexandra, today be better than yesterday and tomorrow be better than today, said Sandy's mother. She died the following Wednesday. Because the girl was literate, Her world became larger and she began to dream. She was able to go to the capital and become a maid. Her mom was right. But of course her mother would never have thought that she would become Alexandra Clement and also the bride of Sir Killian Winfrid. Killian welcomed Lady Alexandra to Chamberley Manor and led her to his office for class. To begin with, he gave her a test with basic questions. Sandy didn't understand anything, but she ordered herself to pull herself together and do everything. Her first teacher, Miss Austen, always called her the best student. When the girl finished and took the test, Killian grabbed his head. He didn't understand how she could not know the basics. "Basic knowledge is a failure," the Duke wrote. Next, he gave her a pencil and asked her to draw a vase of flowers that stood in front of her. But she didn't do this very well either, more like a small child. Then the Duke asked Alexandra to sing from the notes, but the girl didn't know how to do it and couldn't even just read the notes. Killian wrote down, "Aristocratic abilities. Failure." Killian asked Alexandra to walk around the room, but her gait was similar to the way fat pigeons walk in the park. Next, there were bows when greeting. "Imagine that I am the king of the nation and bow to me. Now imagine that I am an aristocratic friend. Now I am a servant," the Duke gave commands. And only for the sake of the servant, the girl did not hold on to her dress. "How touching. You think that a king, a nobleman, and a servant are all birds of a feather," said the guy, and didn't know what to do next. Sandy knew she had failed. The girl remembered how her first teacher said that she was the best, even though it was 10 years ago. The Duke replied that she was definitely mistaken. Killian thought, maybe we should break off the engagement. If she becomes queen as planned, it will be difficult for Prince Leopold at first. But she's too cute. I definitely won't leave her with a tutor. She wasn't kidding when she said that a stupid wife would make me look like a stupid politician. It must be hard for you to deal with my amnesia, but we have to do this together, the girl said during their break. Killian was unhappy, and Alexandra said that she would forgive him if he taught her. This surprised the guy, and he asked what it meant and why she would forgive him. "At His Highness's banquet, it was you who humiliated and hurt me but never apologized. I will forgive you for this," said the girl. "Alexandra, I will forgive you for forcing me to teach you if you give me the country," Duke Winfried said in response. In fact, for some reason, he wasn't angry with her. "We'll do this twice a week on Wednesdays and Saturdays," Killian said. The girl asked if it would take up too much of his time. "What remains? You won't be able to catch up on everything before the wedding, therefore listen to me, Alexandra. I will make you a perfect lady at any cost," Killian said. "My goodness, Lady Alexandra, perhaps you are overworking yourself with volunteer work," Lady Bryson said, adding that she looked rather pale. Alexandra replied that everything was fine. In fact, this community was her only salvation these days. Killian did not spare her and trained her until exhaustion. "If you are sure that you cannot cope with today's tasks, speak now," Killian said, placing a stack of books in front of the bride. "If I say I'm not sure, he'll stop giving me homework, but I want to prove that I can take it. That Sandy Willie is not an idiot," she decided. Sandy couldn't even afford to go for a walk alone due to her daily assignments. She could call her volunteering activities a vacation. "I'm sorry, Lady Alexandra. You changed all the sheets yourself, and I'm so slow," Lady Bryson told her sadly. Sandy replied that she liked doing it. Ida said that Lady Alexandra really looked happy now, and invited her to go to the opera with the 4 of them this weekend. "It's no use running away, Alexandra," said Killian. "But this position is so difficult and embarrassing," the girl answered, holding his hands tightly. "We will do this until I am satisfied," the Duke commanded. "Sir Winfrid is so ruthless," discussed the maids who were listening at the door. "Oh my God, in broad daylight," said one maid. The second maid said that although they were engaged, they were not married yet. And the third asked when they managed to become so close, because not so long ago they hated each other. "I can't do it anymore, Sir Winfrid," asked Lady Alexandra. "I believe in the power of education. This power changes people. Don't move, Alexandra. Straighten your back and shoulders a little, please," said the Duke. The girl asked how much longer she should stand like this. Killian replied that she had not yet mastered the basic waltz poses. Sandy thought she had already mastered the base, but Killian thought differently. The Duke forced her to learn all the dance moves for the day. Sandy asked to rest, but he reminded her that his boots were still worn out. "What if I say I'm too tired to go to the meeting tomorrow?" Alexandra asked. "In that case, I will go there without you, don't worry about it," he replied. When the Duke allowed the girl to rest a little on the sofa, he thought that even if she had lost her memory, her body should have remembered the dance movements.
"Madam, you must be tired. Even yesterday you read all night after you returned from Chamberlain," the maid said to Alexandra as they rode in the carriage.
The girl replied that everything was fine and she would have a good rest today. When they noticed Mr. Killian from the carriage, the maid became thoughtful. She told the lady that if Sir Winfred had behaved like this before, perhaps she would have already fallen in love with her fiancé. Then Sandy decided to question the maid. "Exactly. I didn't despise Sir Winfred from the very beginning, did I?" she asked, taking advantage of the moment. "What normal lady did not fall in love with Sir Winfred from the moment they met? You showed considerable interest in him when you first met. If only your first meeting would not have been like this." The maid did not have time to finish as a servant approached them and offered his hand to help them get out of the carriage. Alexandra greeted Sir Wesley. The guy complimented her and went to call Lady Bryson. "I've gotten a lot better, haven't I?" Sandy asked her fiancé. "Not a bit. Your steps are too wide and you are too stiff. You laugh for no reason and talk like a child." "Do you want me to continue?" replied the Duke. The girl decided that the next time they practiced the waltz, she would step on his foot with her heel, and they entered the restaurant. Lady Idis asked Alexandra if it was true that she and Killian had been seeing each other a lot lately, like lovebirds. Sandy let it slip that they were studying together. Sir Wesley asked what learning meant. The girl corrected herself that they read together and discussed books. The lie made her lips tremble. "Wow, I guess the inhuman Sir Winfred has at least some sympathy for his bride. You are amazing, Lady Clement. I've been friends with him since the cradle, but I never had the opportunity to study with this scoundrel. Such an excellent Sir Winfred cannot understand us who do not succeed in our studies. Plus, he's a stubborn perfectionist. Once he starts teaching you something, he won't stop until the very end," said his friend. And Sandy immediately recognized her fiancé and teacher Killian in his story. Sir Wesley told an interesting story. "Lady Alexandra, did you know that at King's College there is a tradition in which the older students teach the younger ones? So there was one junior student who was unlucky enough to get Killian as a mentor. Sir Winfred's peerless student could not bear his teachings and left the school. Killian said Christopher Williams was a weak idiot. Sandy almost cried, 'Madam, why did you recommend him to me as a teacher? And yet there is one thing in which I feel confident. I'm the only one he doesn't treat cruelly, therefore I cannot afford to look like a weak idiot.'" During the opera, Alexandra struggled with sleep, because she was looking forward to it so much. But the girl still fell asleep due to sleepless nights of preparation. Her fiancé noticed that she was sleeping. "She really overworked herself. She's come such a long way and she's never missed a class before," Killian thought as he watched her sleep. "Something is really wrong with me. To find something charming about that sleeping girl in the theater. Something strange is happening to my aesthetic taste," thought the Duke. After the opera, Killian and Alexandra walked through the evening park. The guy kept making fun of her for falling asleep during the performance. "Is it in the spirit of a gentleman to point out mistakes to a lady?" asked Alexandra. Killian replied that he never gives up such an opportunity. "Just wait. When you make a mistake, I will tease you and humiliate you even more," the girl answered angrily. The Duke replied that he was never wrong. Then Alexandra said that even the most ideal person can make a mistake at least once in his life. "Well, I'm clearly more than just an ideal person. You see that I'm not mistaken," the guy said, and they both burst into loud laughter. Their laughter even frightened the swans on the pond near them. As they rode in the carriage, Killian looked at his bride, not taking his eyes off her. Alexandra asked what happened, and he said she was beautiful. Killian moved closer to her and kissed Lady Alexandra. During the kiss, his hand slid over her bust. The girl was indignant. He himself did not understand why he could not control his body. It seemed to the guy that he was becoming a pervert at the sight of his bride. The lady was scared, and the Duke said that there was nothing wrong with it because they were engaged. Alexandra replied that such behavior before the wedding is unacceptable. Killian was indignant and shouted, "You insisted that I be your fiancé and forbade me to communicate with other girls, and now you are behaving like this." Alexandra replied that this promise did not allow him to be a scoundrel, and allowed him to kiss her, based on the fact that he was her fiancé. "Besides, if you allow kisses, why are you upset when I touch your breasts? Isn't that part of the kiss? Killian asked. Oh my God, you definitely sound like a bastard, said Alexandra. And the guy replied that she was clearly overplaying her touchy-feely image. Lady Alexandra is embarrassed even by a simple kiss, and the young master thinks only of himself. He does not understand her feelings, or mine. He doesn't even try to understand them, Sandy thought. As you said, sir, we will get married in a few months. How can you call yourself a gentleman if you can't control your lust for such a short time? On the outside, you are a perfect aristocrat, but your mind is not noble. A real gentleman is clean both outside and inside, Lady Alexandra said. Killian was offended, but told his bride that he was sure that her mind was as beautiful as she was. And Alexandra replied that he was much more beautiful than his. After all, the mind of someone who allowed himself such an attitude towards his own bride cannot be beautiful. Enough, shouted an angry Killian. The servant opened the doors and announced that they had arrived at the Clement estate. Alexandra thanked the Duke for the walk and ran home. How dare you call me a lustful scoundrel? Just wait, soon I will take revenge on you, Alexandra, thought Killian, who was terribly angry with his bride.